We often think that the more stuff we have, the fuller and richer our lives are. But in reality, it's those excess items that are draining our space and mental energy. So how do we break free from that feeling without having to toss out all our favorite things? Today, I'm going to share with you 13 decluttering rules that have worked for me and many others, helping to make our homes more organized, cleaner, and most importantly, reducing that overwhelming feeling every time we look at a pile of stuff. And trust me, these small rules will definitely change the way you look at your living space. If you're also looking for a way to live more simply without feeling pressured, let's dive into these rules together. Let's get started. So let's start with one of my favorite rules, the 80-20 rule, or Pareto principle. It's honestly a game changer when it comes to decluttering. Here's the deal. 80% of the clutter in your home comes from just 20% of the stuff you have. Crazy, right? Think about it for a second. How many items do you actually use on a daily basis? How much of the stuff around you do you really need? When I first heard about this rule, I had an aha moment. I realized that I was holding on to things just because they had been there forever or because I thought I might use them one day. But honestly, when I really looked at it, most of my space was filled with things I barely touched. So I decided to put the 80-20 rule to the test. I went around my house and started noticing the clothes I wear. The books I read, the kitchen tools I use, it all made sense. I was keeping way too many things that weren't serving me at all. And here's what I did. I focused on the 20% of items I truly love or actually need. The rest, I let go of them. Slowly, my space started feeling more open, more free. And trust me, it felt so much lighter both physically and mentally. So next time you're staring at your closet, your shelves, or that junk drawer, think about this. Does this really serve you? Do you use it or need it? If not, it's time to let it go. You'd be amazed at how much space and clarity it gives you when you just focus on what really matters. Try it out, and I promise you'll start feeling the difference. Trust me on this one. Before we dive into the next rule, I want to give you a little sneak peek of tomorrow's video. We're going to be talking about how to ease into the new year with some simple resets at home to help you feel refreshed and ready to take on everything ahead. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. So make sure you're subscribed and turn on notifications so you don't miss out. But for now, let's keep going with today's video and jump into the next rule. All right, let's move on to rule number 2. Get rid of stuff you haven't used in a year. Sounds simple, right? But this one can actually be a little tough because we all have that one drawer or closet that's packed with things, just in case. You know that old winter coat you haven't worn since last season? Or that fancy kitchen gadget that's been sitting there collecting dust for months? When I first started really decluttering, this rule was a bit of a wake-up call for me. I went through my stuff, and let me tell you, I found so many things I hadn't used in a long time. Like I found a bunch of workout clothes I hadn't touched in over a year. And trust me, I don't need that extra clutter to remind me that I'm not hitting the gym like I should be. But here's the thing. If you haven't used it in the last 12 months, chances are you're not going to use it anytime soon. Holding on to those things just because you might need them one day is only taking up valuable space in your home and your mind. So I made a deal with myself: if I hadn't used it in the last year out, it goes. And guess what? It was way easier than I thought. Not only did I clear out so much unnecessary stuff, but it also felt incredibly freeing. I started to realize that less really is more. It's not about getting rid of everything, but only the things that no longer serve you. So next time you're looking through your closet or that random drawer in your kitchen, take a second and ask yourself, when was the last time I actually used this? If the answer's been over a year, it's time to let it go. Trust me, your future self will thank you. All right, let's talk about the suitcase rule. This one hit me hard the first time I heard it. It's simple, but it really makes you think. Imagine you had to move tomorrow and you can only take what fits in one suitcase. What would you pack? What would you actually need? When I first thought about it, I realized how much unnecessary stuff I had in my life. I looked around my room and thought, If I had to leave right now, would I really take this pair of shoes or this kitchen gadget I haven't touched in months? It was a wake-up call. We all hold on to things because we think we might need them someday, or maybe they've just been there for so long that we don't even question it. But the suitcase rule made me realize that the stuff I really need is a lot less than I thought. I started going through my things and thinking, would I really take this with me if I had to pack up and go today? And honestly, a lot of things just didn't make the cut. Old clothes, extra kitchen tools, things I was holding on to just because they were there. They all went straight into the donate pile. Once I did that, I felt so much lighter. The point is, we often hold on to things that don't add any value to our lives. So next time you're feeling overwhelmed by clutter, ask yourself this. If I had to move tomorrow, what would I actually take with me? You might be surprised at how much you're holding on to that you don't need. Okay, let's move on to the 1-week box rule. Now this one is super simple but super effective. The idea is whenever you're unsure about an item, whether it's something you're considering keeping or letting go of, just toss it in a box. But here's the catch, it stays in the box for a whole week. If after a week you haven't needed it or thought about it, then it's time to let it go. When I first tried this, I thought it would be harder than it was. I had this box sitting in my closet, and at first I felt a little unsure about some things. Like, what if I need this scarf? Or maybe that random kitchen tool will come in handy. But after a few days, I didn't even miss them. In fact, I completely forgot what was in the box. It made me realize that we hold on to stuff for the wrong reasons, maybe out of guilt, or the idea that we might need it one day. But the truth is, if you don't use it within a week, you probably don't need it at all. It's almost like a little test. And let me tell you, it works. After the week is up, I went through the box and most of the stuff went straight to donation. It felt freeing to let go of things I was holding on to just because they were there. And the best part? The space I gained and the mental clarity that came with it. So next time you're undecided about something, try the 1-week box rule. Toss it in the box, forget about it for a week, and see how you feel. If you haven't used it or even thought about it, then it's time to say goodbye. I promise you'll be surprised at how easy it is to part with things you thought you needed. All right, next up, let's talk about the 1-shelf rule. This one is super simple, but it really changes the way you think about your stuff. So here's the deal you give yourself. Just one shelf. Yes, one where you can keep whatever you want. It could be in your closet, your living room, or even the kitchen. But once that shelf is full, that's it. No more clutter, no more extra stuff sneaking in. When I first started doing this, it was a game changer. I used to have piles of things everywhere. Books I hadn't read in years. Random knickknacks, things I thought I might use again someday. And the crazy part is, I thought I needed all of it. But then I decided to give this rule a shot, and I started with just one shelf in my living room. I'll tell you, it wasn't easy at first. I had to decide what really mattered and what was just taking up space. But once I filled up that one shelf with only the things I truly loved or used, it became so clear the rest of the stuff was just noise. I realized I didn't need half of the things I had been holding on to. Plus, it kept me from overstuffing my space with random things that didn't add any value to my life. What I love about this rule is how it forces you to be picky about what you keep. If there's something you really love or use a lot, it'll get a spot on that shelf. Everything else, well, it's got to go. So if you feel like your space is starting to feel cramped or overwhelmed, try this rule out. Give yourself one shelf, just one, and challenge yourself to keep only the essentials. You'll be surprised at how much easier it is to let go of things when you're forced to be a little choosy. Next up is a rule that seems super simple, but trust me, it's a total game changer. Clean from top to bottom. It might sound like a no-brainer, but when I first started using this rule, I realized how many times I'd been doing things backwards and making more work for myself in the process. So here's the idea. When you're cleaning a room or tidying up, always start at the highest point, whether that's a shelf, a counter, or even the ceiling. Do all your dusting, wiping down, and organizing up high first. Then work your way down to the lower surfaces. Why? Because when you clean the surfaces below first, all that dust and debris from the top just ends up falling on the things you've already cleaned. It's like you're cleaning for nothing. I used to just grab whatever was in reach and start tidying up. But after a while, I started noticing that I'd have to go back and redo everything after I dusted off the shelves or cleaned the counters. It was exhausting. So I decided to give the top-to-bottom rule a try. And wow, what a difference. My cleaning process became so much faster and more effective, and it actually felt like I was accomplishing something. Not only does this rule help you clean smarter, but it also makes your space look way more polished. Everything from your counters to your floors will stay cleaner, and you won't have to keep redoing the same spots over and over again. So if you're tired of wasting time and energy on cleaning, give this rule a shot. Start from the top and work your way down. It'll save you time and make your space look that much more put together. All right, let's talk about another rule that completely changed the way I approach cleaning. Tidy up small spaces first. Now I know what you might be thinking, shouldn't I start with the big stuff? But trust me, once I started focusing on the little things first, everything just seemed to click into place so much faster. When you're facing a messy room, it's easy to get overwhelmed by the bigger areas like your entire kitchen counter or a big section of your closet. But if you start by tackling smaller, more manageable spaces, like that one drawer, your nightstand, or a small section of your counter, you get quick wins right off the bat. And those little wins add up, giving you the motivation to keep going. I tried this one day when my living room was looking like a bomb went off, papers everywhere, random stuff scattered across every surface. Instead of diving into the chaos of the whole room, I just picked one small area like the coffee table and focused on that. You know what happened? Once I cleared that space, it felt like the room was instantly 10 times cleaner. I felt a huge sense of accomplishment, and that motivated me to move on to the next small area. What I love about this rule is how it makes cleaning feel less overwhelming. By focusing on one small space at a time, you don't feel like you're drowning in clutter. And once you see how quickly you can make a difference, it's way easier to tackle bigger spaces. Plus, small spaces tend to accumulate clutter faster, so it's a great way to stay on top of things without the stress. So next time you're looking at a mess and feeling defeated, remember, start with the small spaces. Clear one little corner and watch how quickly the rest of your space starts falling into place. Okay, this one is all about the little hidden spaces. Keep the nooks and crannies tidy. You know those tiny corners, the little spaces between your couch cushions, the top of your fridge, or the back of your bathroom cabinet? Those spots that are easy to forget about when you're cleaning. Yeah, those are the ones I'm talking about. I'll be honest, I used to totally ignore these areas. I'd focus on the big, obvious spaces, the kitchen counters, the living room, and the bedroom. But once I started paying attention to those smaller, often overlooked areas, everything felt so much cleaner and more put together. It's like those little hidden messes build up and start to add to the chaos without you even realizing it. For example, the top of my fridge, it's one of those places I used to just shove things and forget about. But one day I decided to give it a little love, clear off the clutter, and wipe it down. It took less than 5 minutes, but once it was clean, the whole kitchen looked better. Same thing with the space behind the couch. I used to just let it collect dust and random stuff, but now I vacuum it once a week, and it makes such a big difference. What's great about this rule is it's super easy to implement and doesn't take much time at all. Just a quick sweep through the nooks and crannies, and your space instantly feels fresher. And when you keep those little areas clean, it really helps with the overall flow of your home. It's like the finishing touches to a clean house. So next time you're tidying up, don't forget about those small, forgotten spots. A little attention to those nooks and crannies goes a long way in making your space feel truly organized and clean. Okay, let's talk about a little design hack that made a huge difference in my space. Furniture with exposed legs. Sounds kind of simple, right? But hear me out. When I first started decluttering and organizing, I was all about the comfy, cozy look, and I loved big, heavy furniture. You know those big couches or chairs that sit right on the floor? They felt great, but they didn't do much for the flow of my space. Then I came across this rule: choose furniture with exposed legs. And honestly, it's like a whole new world opened up. The moment I swapped a few solid bulky pieces with ones that have legs, my living room immediately looked bigger. The space just opened up. It's kind of like the difference between wearing a bulky sweater versus a fitted one. It just feels lighter, more airy. What's cool about furniture with exposed legs is that it gives your space that open vibe even if it's on the smaller side. The legs allow you to see more of the floor underneath, which tricks your brain into thinking the room is less crowded. And it's not just about aesthetics, it's also easier to clean. You can vacuum or sweep underneath, which you definitely can't do with furniture that sits flat on the floor. I made this change in my living room and I was blown away by how much better it looked. It felt like I was getting so much more out of the space I already had just by switching out a few pieces. It's a small design trick, but it really helps make a room feel less cluttered and more spacious. So if you're looking to refresh a room or want to make a space feel a little airier, try switching to furniture with exposed legs. It's an easy and effective way to visually open up your space while making it easier to clean at the same time. All right, let's talk about a rule that's kind of a game changer when it comes to organizing and decluttering. Empty space is good space. Now, this might sound a little counterintuitive because, let's be honest, we often think that more stuff means more value, right? But here's the thing. Empty space is actually what makes a room feel open, calm, and inviting. I used to pack every inch of my space with something, whether it was knickknacks, extra pillows, or even just stuff I wasn't sure what to do with. But once I started following this rule, I realized how much better it felt to leave some areas clear. For example, I used to fill up the coffee table with magazines, candles, and random things, but now I just leave it mostly empty with maybe one or two things I truly love. And you know what? The room feels way more spacious and peaceful. The idea behind this rule is simple. When you leave some space empty, it doesn't just make the room look bigger, it actually makes the things you do have stand out more. It gives your eyes a place to rest instead of being bombarded with too much visual clutter. And trust me, this has helped me so much with creating a calm, organized atmosphere in my home. It's not about getting rid of everything, though. It's about being mindful of what you keep and making sure the space around you feels relaxed and comfortable. It's all about balance. Like, instead of cramming stuff into every corner, I've learned that a little bit of breathing room goes a long way in making the space feel more zen. So next time you're organizing, think about leaving a little more empty space, whether it's on your counters, tables, or even the floor. You'll be surprised how much better the space feels when there's room to breathe. All right, let's talk about the reduce multi-use items rule. Now, this one might sound a bit odd at first because usually we're all about finding things that can do multiple jobs, right? The more functions an item has, the better, right? But after giving it some thought, I realized that having too many multi-use items can actually create more clutter, not less. Let me explain. I used to have all these gadgets and tools in my kitchen that were supposed to be super helpful, but honestly, they just took up space. Like, I had a blender that could make smoothies, soups, and even dough, but it was so bulky and complicated that I barely used it for anything. Same thing with a coffee maker that also brewed tea and hot chocolate. Honestly, I only used it for coffee. It just sat there collecting dust. Once I started simplifying, I realized that sometimes having an item that does one thing really well is actually way more practical than trying to make do with something that's supposed to do it all. For example, I ditched the fancy blender and got a simple one that I actually used all the time. It took up way less space, did the job better, and I wasn't stuck trying to clean all these extra attachments. The key here is that while multi-use items seem like a space saver, they can actually create more clutter and stress when you end up with too many of them. It's way easier to stay organized when you have a few items that serve one purpose, but do it really well. Plus, you can save time, energy, and frustration by not dealing with a ton of complicated gadgets. So next time you're thinking about buying something that does a million things, ask yourself, will I actually use all of those functions? If not, maybe it's better to just keep things simple and stick with the essentials. It'll make your space feel less crowded and a lot easier to keep organized. All right, let's dive into one of my favorite rules, the pinky rule. Now, this one is pretty straightforward, but can make a huge impact on how you think about spending and buying stuff. So here's the idea before you buy anything. Ask yourself, is this really worth the amount of time I'll have to work to afford it? Sounds a little strange, right? But let me explain. So here's how it works. Take a look at how much you make per hour. Then think about how many hours of your life it would take to buy something. Let's say you earn $20 an hour. If you're thinking about buying a $50 shirt, that's not just $50 you're spending, it's actually 2.5 hours of your life you're trading for it. Sounds a little more expensive now, doesn't it? I'll be honest, when I first heard this rule, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. I started looking at purchases way differently. Like before I bought something, I would think about how many hours I had to work to pay for it. Suddenly, that cute $10 coffee wasn't looking so tempting anymore. And that $200 jacket, it started feeling a lot less worth it when I realized how much time I'd have to give up to get it. The pinky rule is all about being intentional with your purchases and realizing that your time is valuable. It's easy to justify small purchases here and there, but when you start thinking about the real cost of things, your time, it really makes you stop and think. Do I really need this? Will it add value to my life? Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't treat yourself every now and then, but this rule has helped me be more mindful of what I buy and make sure I'm spending my money and my time on things that actually matter to me. It's about being conscious of what you're trading your hours for. So the next time you're eyeing something, try applying the pinky rule. Think about how many hours of your life you're giving up to buy it. You might just start saying no to a lot of things that you don't truly need. All right, we're wrapping up with a rule that sounds super simple but has honestly been a game changer for me. Put things back where they belong. I know it sounds basic, but stick with me on this one. This rule is actually the key to keeping your space consistently tidy without a ton of effort. For years, I'd find myself tossing things around when I was in a hurry. Like I'd drop my jacket on the couch instead of hanging it up, or leave my keys on the counter instead of putting them in the bowl where they belong. And guess what happened? Chaos. Every single time. Things piled up, and before I knew it, I was digging through piles to find my wallet or my favorite lip balm. It was exhausting. So I decided to give this rule a try. No matter what, if I use something, I'm going to put it right back where it belongs. And here's the trick. It really doesn't take that much more time than leaving it out. Like putting the coffee cup back in the sink right after you're done drinking it instead of leaving it on the table makes all the difference. And I don't have to spend 30 minutes cleaning up at the end of the day because everything already has a place. It's honestly been the easiest way to maintain a clean, organized space. The key is having a designated place for everything. That way, when you're done using something, you know exactly where it goes and there's no question about it. It takes maybe 10 seconds, but the payoff is huge. Your house stays cleaner and you don't have to keep track of random things everywhere. So next time you're tempted to leave something lying around, just take a second and put it back where it belongs. It's the easiest habit to start. And trust me, once you get into the groove, it'll feel second nature and your space will thank you. And that's it for today's decluttering tips. I hope you're feeling inspired to start simplifying your space, one small step at a time. Remember, it's not about perfection. It's about creating a space that feels good to you. These rules have honestly made a huge difference in my life, and I'm excited for you to try them out for yourself. Before we wrap up, I just want to let you know that in the next video, we're going to dive into how to ease into the new year with a fresh mindset, talking about resets at home, simple changes to make, and some exciting updates I've got going on. It's going to be a great one, so stay tuned. If you liked today's video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with a friend who might need a little decluttering motivation, and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care and happy organizing.